Alright, it is time for part 2 of my favorite game demos from Steam Next Fest of February 26th. We have another day and another collection of amazing games and demos that you should check out. Our first game up is Servo. This is a kind of physics simulated puzzle game where you play as a strange vehicle trying to escape from a variety of environments. Unfortunately for you, you are very limited in your ability to maneuver. You have 2 buttons and that is it. One that will boost you to the right, and one that will reverse gravity. And everything is making use once again of simulated physics, as you try to drive, boost, fall, and other maneuvers around. Our kind of main challenge here, of course, is dealing with the physics. This is one of those games like any gravity or physics simulated take where you're going to have those situations that you're too close to something to kind of avoid it, but you're too far away to kind of interact with anything else. And I did get stuck in a few places during our demo. It's still a very charming take on puzzle design, and I'm curious to see how far things will go in terms of obstacle and level design in the main game. If any of this sounds interesting to you, I would at least give this a try and see if it floats your boat or gravity shifts your boat. And now we go to Curse of the Abyss. This is an old school roguelike where the twist here is that every floor, everything will move in a I go, you go style. So you make an action, the game will make an action. Tiles will break and degrade every turn, and your job is to try and get as much out of each floor as you can in terms of resources and items before you move on to the next, or the floor quite literally falls out from under you and you end up dying. This one is going to be a little bit more on the challenging side, and part of it is that enemies will have very fixed behaviors. It's in the style that the enemies will oftentimes have an action phase and then a rest or recovery set, and that's when you're supposed to run into them in order to do damage. Each one of the game's characters will have different stats and will start with varying items. Like Dungeons of Dusk from the previous episode, I'm not as huge of a fan of classic design when it comes to dungeon crawling or roguelikes, but this one is definitely going to be on the charming and challenging side. So if any of this sounds interesting, I would at least give this demo a try and see if it will work for you. And now we go to Driving Road, a game that combines arcade racing with roguelike design. You must survive a variety of races by earning enough points by doing stylish and careful driving. 2 things that I am absolutely horrible at. After each race, you're able to upgrade your vehicle, and of course, beat the run, you'll be able to go on another one. As I said, and for fans, I am not good at driving games, and this game does not quite work for me. I just cannot get a handle on how drifting is supposed to work. And if you are not a fan of racing games, this one is definitely not going to make you one. So it's a very clever twist on the racing formula. So if you've been looking for some roguelike racing to do in your life, I would at least give this one a shot. And now we go to Cathedral Crow's Curse. This is a prequel to the previous Cathedral, which is more of a traditional Metroidvania. This time we have a very surprisingly action-focused example. You are exploring a world that will eventually lead to the events of the first game, but you are certainly not going to be playing it like that. First off, everything feels really solid. Moving, jumping, and slashing is all very immediate and finely tuned. The biggest change is that this game features a more focus on combat rather than on jumping and platforming. To wit, everything does not have hit stun. You can't stun your enemies, the enemies can't stun you. Instead, there is a focus on breaking stagger, much like with something along the lines of Sekiro. As you attack enemies, you build up kind of a invisible stagger meter. When they're staggered, you can then go in for a finisher. By parrying enemy attacks, which is blocking at the best time, you'll build up stagger even more. Against most minor enemies, one parry is enough to stop them, Against the tougher enemies, you'll need to perform multiple staggers in a row in order to break their poise and then go in for the kill. There's going to be a variety of artifacts and perks you'll be able to find, and the resources that you get from killing enemies is used to upgrade them. So this will allow you better item magnets, better backstabs and crits, etc, etc. The one thing that we didn't see from this demo is how the boss fights are going to play out. With this being more of a parry-focused game rather than just a traditional 2D platformer, it's hard to tell what they're going to do for bosses. Is it going to be about breaking stagger or about you just hacking them away? With that said, I really enjoyed this one. If you're expecting a traditional Metroidvania, you may be a bit disappointed or overwhelmed by this one. But if you're looking for another very combat and interesting take on the design, highly recommend you check this one out. And now we go to Australia Did It. What they did, I don't know. But what we have here is a kind of take on the Into the Breach formula. You play as delivery people, using a train where all manner of bugs, monsters, and more are trying to stop you from completing your deliveries. You're going to have to shoot them one turn at a time to keep them at bay. The general, element here is that you can buy or hire different characters. They will belong to different classes, which will affect their abilities, perks, and all the stuff we can come to know and love. But you can combine characters of the same level together, even characters of different classes. So if you combine the character that does kind of a spread shot knockback with a character who can inflict radiation or DOT effect, you then get a character who can do knockback and a DOT effect in a splash. When you get to level 3, you get different kind of unique versions or higher rarities as well. And you're going to need to figure out which crew you're going to want to use on your train in order to deal with all the enemies. The game features a kind of like two-stage process. The first part is you doing the turn-based battles as you see here. Every turn or every other few set of turns, enemies will spawn in, and you'll need to maneuver your characters around to keep the enemies from attacking kind of your train yard itself. Now, killing enemies will reward you with resources that you can use to buy new characters, get upgrades, etc, etc. When it's time to leave, you must get all your surviving characters onto the train before time runs out, or they're going to be left to die. After that, you then have this kind of like on rails, train sim part, where you must survive a variety of enemies attacking from all sides, while switching characters into different cars in order to defend everything. You of course can decide which paths you take, which will affect the layouts of the environment, what hazards enemies will show up, and of course, the level rewards. There's definitely a lot going on in this game, and I'm not quite sure, how much more evolved the main game is going to be. Will there be any kind of meta layer? How advanced the enemies are going to get? But this one is definitely going to be for the Into the Breach audience, who's looking for another game to test your tactical skills at, and do a little bit of crazy train driving along the way. Speaking about driving, our next game is Moto Rush Reborn. Yes, 2 driving related games in a single video here on the channel, do you believe it? This is an arcade motorcycle kind of just like driving challenge. You're not necessarily racing other cars in this one, at least from what we saw during the demo, but it's more about you surviving from beginning to end, while avoiding crashing into cars, vehicles, and more. The game grades you on picking up different collectibles, how well you drive, in my case how many times I crashed, and your reward with kind of story bits that you can read in a comic book. The kind of interesting challenge here is that the bike kind of like sticks to the path itself, and what I mean by that is that this is not like a pure driving sim or even like an arcade racer in that respect. As long as you're not kind of moving the analog stick or hitting any keys, it will kind of follow the road as it turns. So this makes it a little bit trickier to get out of the way of certain obstacles, as sometimes it feels like you're not turning as far as you should, And again, it's more about you trying to get all the bonus challenges rather than you winning a race. I still enjoy this one. Again, this is not going to be someone who's looking for like a pure racing style game, but you're in the mood for some high-speed, challenging driving, I would at least give this one a try. And now we leave the hardcore driving for some cozy puzzle with Black Zen White. This is another in the classic style of puzzle games, as you're trying to get from beginning to end in each level. The puzzle hook is that you have kind of the world shifting between both black and white form, as shown by the clock in the upper left. When you're in a specific period, the different platforms will either appear or disappear accordingly. So your job is to figure out where you need to be at each phase of the clock in order to move on and solve the puzzle. I would say typically this one's going to be maybe like on the easier to maybe moderate side. The main thing is that there is a bit more of delay in the puzzle solving this one compared to other titles, because you have to wait for time to shift. There's no way to kind of speed up or slow down the clock accordingly. But still, I would say this is a very delightful game. I like the watercolor art style for the backgrounds, and if you're in the mood for some puzzle solving, I would at least give this one a shot. We leave the cozy puzzle solving for some cozy, maybe sort of horror, with The Last Gas Station. You play as someone who's been hired at quite literally the last gas station around, and it's your job to turn this dilapidated building into a successful business, helping the customers, filling up gas, not wondering why there's military convoys driving by every night, and there's a strange bunker door hidden in our warehouse, and no one says to go out at nighttime. But I'm sure none of that is gonna matter, right? Well, this is again, kind of in that cozy until it's not category of vibes. Each day, you'll run the gas station using the money that you earn to restock, get more gas, and even upgrade. And I do really like the pixel art animation in this one. My only concern from playing the demo is that we play this for like a good, I think like 30-40 minutes, and not much was really happening. The game is certainly going to be focusing on like goal base. You have to hit certain metrics of customers served, popularity levels, etc., in order to move the overall story along. And I would have liked to at least have seen, at least within the demo, a little bit more of like if/when there's like a bit of an edge to this one. So if you're in the mood for a little cozy, possibly spooky time, I would at least give this one a play. And now we go to something that's definitely not cozy with Replaced. This is a 2D kind of adventure platformer where you play a man who an AI has been downloaded into your body, and you are now forced to flee from the evil corporation that's trying to get you and try to get the AI out of your head, all the while exploring some very stunningly beautiful voxel-related environments. The gameplay from the demo shows off kind of a mix of the environmental puzzle design of, say, Out of This World or Flashback, but features a combat system that feels very similar to that of the Arkham games, but in 2D, as you'll be able to move, smack, counter enemies, and pull some very just badass gun finishers when your gun is fully charged. The demo itself was a bit on the short side, and it's hard to tell where these mechanics will evolve. Will there be more advanced enemies, more advanced puzzle solving? It's a little bit hard to tell, but the game certainly has a very solid foundation to it. And I would definitely recommend this one if you are a fan of kind of the old school platformers, again, the Out of This World variety. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of this and seeing where it's going to lead when it is released. And for the last game of today's episode, we have BastionOS. This is a tower defense incremental, where you are battling programs in what appears to be a late 80s, early 90s computer. Each round, you're going to have to blast through a variety of programs coming to get you. When they are defeated, any resources you collect will then be applied to your, of course, ever-expanding perk tree, unlocking better stats, new weapons, additional functionality, and more. You'll go from shooting little shots at a time to multiple shots, flaming floor shots, and more. The demo gives off a pretty nice feel for what I expect to see in the main game, and I'm interested to see kind of like how far they're aiming for in terms of overall length when the game is out. But like our previous game from last night, it's another just very well executed incremental style. So, if you haven't completely gotten tired of this particular genre yet, then this is definitely worth your time and towering to do. And with that, day number 2 is finished, but we are not done yet with the series. Let me know what some of your favorite demos were down below, and we'll be back for our next part and more indie games coming real soon. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.